Hello and welcome to the Milltown Way. This is the independent podcast covering all things hoops, focusing on Shamrock Rovers. I'm Ryan Brennan. I'm joined here as always by Adam Casey. A few things to cover today. We will start off with the recent video that went out during the week regarding Shamrock Rovers, the GAA, and Thomas Davis. We'll look at, we're recording this directly after Rovers 1-0 win over Waterford, so we will discuss that and then we'll look ahead because we're recording after the game. We'll be looking ahead to Monday's fixture against Drogheda United, as it is that double game week that we seem to always have, but always dread. As I said, Rovers host Drogheda on Monday, on Bank Holiday Monday as well. But I suppose we'll start off, Adam. It's been a busy week for the Milltown Way,
Yeah,
unusually so.
yeah, you're a bit more traffic to the Milton Way pages after last week's episode.
Yeah, so maybe for those who might have missed last week's episode, and if you were, what were you doing? But yeah, myself and Adam, we touched on how we didn't know in too much detail why Shamrock Rovers were chanting anti-GAA, anti-Thomas Davis. Well, we've found out plenty of stuff since.
Yeah,
We've done the research, and well, there's of course ample reason um, why the feelings are as strong as they are from the Shamrock Rover support regarding the GA, regarding Thomas Davis. We had a lot of people get in touch, regarding this, and as well as that, when I say a lot of people, it's a good thing. By all means, I think look, the ultimate goal here, I suppose, is we all want to maybe I don't know, educate, inform, and learn about this club. If you can't learn too much, I don't think about any particular given football club, whether it's Shamrock Rovers, whether you support anyone else. The fact of the matter is, there's always more that you can. There's more information you can know. There's more stuff you can learn, and this is a learning curve. Look for us, something that I thought we like a club that I thought we do know a lot of the history for sure. That and all you need to do is a quick visit to even the website that I know we haven't been as probably active as we'd like on the website front, but I've done we both of us have done plenty of articles on that page or on that website regarding Rovers and the history of Milltown, the weight of Milltown, and in the build up to the cup final last year as well. So yeah, no, there is definitely a lot we do know. There's more we need to know. There's stuff we're learning about every day. Yeah, something we look hold our hands up probably say that we should have known for sure. But look, it is what it is. We move on. Look, you learn from these things, and this is definitely, as I said, this is a learning curve for us. As I said, this is a podcast that we do on on the side.
yeah, it's not. I don't think it's by anyone's surprise that this isn't our full-time jobs.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. Yeah, exactly. There's not a paycheck coming in the door. But look, Shamrock Rovers is something that obviously we have plenty of passion for. As you might be able to tell from these episodes, there's a reason we do this podcast. For the club that we do love so much and hold very closely to us. There's a reason we go home and away.
Yeah.
Well, one half the podcast does.
Oh no,
Ooh.
don't be throwing that out there.
um, and including which I might get on maybe in a bit more detail in the next episode of how I'll be getting to Rovers game next Friday against Galway. But I think I'll leave that for
Yeah, it's better to keep
we've
that for the preview for that.
yeah
Talk
that's
about that on Monday.
yeah exactly. But yeah, look, what I will say is, look, I want to thank everyone who did get in touch. Not all the comments were overly positive. I will say that, which look, um, yeah, it's when they're not overly positive. Look, it's a bit tougher to hear. But for the vast majority, when I say they're not overly positive, that's quite a minuscule from the amount of comments. Because in total, I think across all the platforms, I think we got over 100 comments in total. Across between your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your Twitters, TikToks, whatever you name it. And we got a lot, and as the vast majority constructive criticism. A lot of the older hoops who want look, they want younger supporters like ourselves to learn more And this is one thing that we have learned since. Um, and yeah, like look, at the end of the day, when all this was going on, I was about 4 years of age.
Yeah, younger.
You were younger. But it's something that look, we are learning about. We've done ample research on it since. Reading it through a lot of articles, reading through a lot of boards from 2007 even. On the topic, we do have an interview lined up with someone as well. That's next week, but do keep an eye on our social media platforms for that. It's taking place on Tuesday. Hopefully, it'll be out on Tuesday. Ideally, if not Wednesday, probably would be the latest. But yeah, keep an eye on our social channels for that. It's going to be a good interview, and yeah, it'll bring up a lot of memories. I think for probably older generation supporters, some good, some bad, and some in between probably. But something that I think a lot of fans will get enjoyment out of, and it'll bring up memories for older supporters. It'll hopefully inform younger supporters. And it'll help us as well grow as a page. Because look, everyone who listens to this episode, whether it's just one episode or whether it's been all of them, look, we all have a common goal, and that's we support this club,
Yep.
and we want to see this club do well, and we want this club to be there. You know, they've gone through the dark days, and hopefully they'll never be seen again. And ultimately, we all want to keep the green flag flying high.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have put that any better myself.
Yeah,
But should we get into the football then?
I guess we should. That's what people are tuning in for.
Yeah. So we'll start off with the game that we're recording this only about an hour after it's over, so it's fresh in the
This is
head.
a late record. Look, and this is the things we do.
For the double game weeks, this happens.
Yeah.
But 1-0 win over Waterford FC to restore Shamrock Rovers back to the top of the table by a point. 1-0 win, Graham Burke goal, when Enda Stevens assist after 25 minutes. What's your initial thoughts on the overall game?
Uh,
Lackluster.
ye-
From an entertainment point of view, if you were a neutral, it wouldn't have been the great game to go to. Like them
yeah.
lads in their out on their stag do that we seen.
Yeah, or even the lads beside us.
Yeah, were they on their holidays or something?
I don't know because they're asking about a rugby game tomorrow.
Yeah, well then they wouldn't be around here if they're wanting to go to a rugby match.
um, yeah, I'm look not overly impressed with the performance. However, there's elements to acknowledge as to maybe why this wasn't the performance that maybe you come to expect of the club or of the squad. For example, a few changes to the starting 11,
Mm,
few changes throughout the game. That's with in mind that
yeah,
Rovers do have two more games in the next week. You
yeah.
know, with
Again,
Drogheda on Monday and Galway next Friday. So definitely that's in mind. You can tell that from I said the use of the subs. Good to see Dylan Watts back on the pitch. Good to see Enda Stevens on the pitch as well. Obviously ultimately setting up Graham Burke's goal.
yep.
But yeah, look, taken kind of as a whole, factoring in them elements, not pretty. Um, Against a side who hasn't won a game yet this year, only
No.
drawn five, I think. It is
Yeah,
5 draws, yeah. Um, Ultimately not too pretty, and frustrations began to grow. I think later on in the game, particularly when there was a couple of times Waterford looked like they were capable of getting an equaliser.
yeah. It did. It was a frustrating performance, but again, the result did go Rovers' way. So you do sometimes have to win then games where you're not playing at your best, and typically teams who win titles and compete at the highest level do that. But yeah, there was particularly a few in the second half. Rovers did not really create a lot at all. I'm not saying Waterford did create chances, were they of high quality? Not necessarily. Um, but in the second half, I just felt like I know we always say we're not one to look at stats, but then they tell a bit of a story. Like overall in the match, Rovers had 22 shots, 16 of them in the first half.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
while also then allowing, for example, Waterford to have 5 shots on them when in the first half they only allowed 3. So there's a lot more secure performance in the first half and a lot more dominant from Rovers in the first half. But it's still the problem that we've harped on a good bit this year. There hasn't been the quality of chances created. The
Mm.
goal was Greenberg's goal, lovely finish. At first, on watching it on a replay after getting home, you could see how well he took that goal and how little time he had to think really and
Yeah,
just get his foot on it.
yeah, because as I said to you,
It looked like it nearly just bundled in from our angle.
yeah, because obviously we're in the opposite end to where the goal is, so you're struggling to see it in real time.
Hmm.
So yeah, like that. I think we probably shared that opinion of thinking that kind of just nearly more closer to just falling over the line,
Yeah,
more of a scrappy goal. But yeah, you look back at the replay, and the Stevens sets up well, and well, Graham Burke does what Graham Burke does,
yeah,
and that's putting it into the back of the net, and had to think very fast.
yeah,
To allow to be able to kind of get that control on the ball and get it to go where he wanted it. So yeah, took it well, but yeah, elsewhere, I don't know. Do concerns still?
yeah. Because they had a good chance after about 10 minutes off. There was a bit of a mistake from Sobowale where he failed to get the ball out. And was kind of bouncing around just past the halfway line after a ball had been kicked up and he kind of missed it.
Then that
And
led
then
to
Waterford were in.
I think Padraig Amond, former hoop, obviously. He got in on a couple of occasions. There was that moment where he kind of charged, yeah, like that Sabawala gets kind
And
of get caught out.
forced a save out of McGinty.
Yeah,
Sobowale did do well to chase him back to speed. He was able to get back to him to at least put a bit of pressure on him. But it was a bad mistake, and it could have been against a different team or a stronger team. That could have been a goal.
yeah, yeah, and he had another chance where he was in, about 10 minutes into the second half. That was about it. Where Padraig Amond was in again. What kind of one on nearly gets to a 1-on-1 with Ed McGinty in the second half. He didn't end up getting in the 1-on-1
No.
after Sabawale's mishap. But yeah, the one in the second half was a lot closer. It forces McGinty into a save, and then ultimately was kind of cleared away. But
Hmm.
yeah, just kind of slight concerns I think there, and there's it's a lot of like a it's a lot of game time. So whilst we can be maybe somewhat critical of this performance,
Hmm.
you have to look at it as well as there's a lot of games that are gonna come up. They're playing a lot of games.
Yeah, there's a lot of matches.
Yeah, so like
36 games plus everything else.
yeah, and then when you think there's rotation in there too, like you have Adam Brennan and the Stevens, coming in into that back five, say it just slightly changes things up, and Corey
Yeah,
O'Sullivan's injured, which is
devastating news for this podcast.
yeah, and he's been spoken so highly of this week as well.
Yeah, with the comments from Stephen earlier in the week.
Yeah, I think it was his interview with Virgin,
Yeah,
in the lead up to the game tonight. Yeah, he's singing his praises, and he's been described as the poster boy for the club, and I think it's exactly what he is.
yeah,
And then even maybe I don't know, maybe the interviewer of um Virgin Media, whoever was interviewing Stephen Bradley, maybe he's been listening to this podcast because he did mention about how you forget he's 19. That's something we kind of harp on about on a weekly
yeah,
basis. So I'm thinking this fella's a fan.
yeah. He's a big fan. He's listening. Let's
um,
hope not to the most recent episode.
um, but yeah, like so, yeah, Corey. Probably you could argue Corey maybe was a little bit missed because there's a couple of times there where Robert's gonna have to be dug out.
Yeah,
Not to say this doesn't happen with Corey on the pitch, but um,
not necessarily that Enda Stevens had a bad game. I don't
no, he
think he
didn't.
did.
No, yeah,
He played
yeah,
very
yeah,
well. It's just I think it's the particular. You see it in all with a lot of teams. It's the back line that, particularly your centre halves, which I know Rover's going to play with a back five. So you kind of
yeah.
it's a
And you
bit
have
up for
three centre
interpretation. You have
halves.
three centre halves and two wing backs, kind of. But you do notice with teams across football altogether that the least rotated position outside of your goalkeeper is your two centre halves
Mm,
because it's a position where you want as much structure and as little kind of sorry, as much consistency as possible, and not necessarily Edna Stevens played bad. He played quite well actually. One of Rovers' better players on the pitch. He got the assist for the goal.
Well,
But I do
according
think,
to Fotmob, he's man of the match.
oh,
I
well,
think
there you go.
you can't hear it from where we are. I don't know if he did get awarded man of the match in the end.
No, I don't.
Can't, they do announce it, but can't
Yeah, there wasn't really any announcement. They didn't announce like the added
at a
on time or
time.
anything. So I think the speakers are gone or something. They'll have to get them from Oriel Park.
Oh, that's 2 weeks away.
Yeah, and actually, of course, not that we just talked about Fatma, but Sofa score as well. Man of the match
He must have
went
been
to Enda
awarded man. I think
Stevens.
he must have been given man of the match then.
Yeah, he was very good. It's just it's the consistency of trying to keep a consistent back line that you kind of that's why I think they might have missed Corey a little bit. But Enda Stevens has shown, and not for the first time this season, that he can come in when needed and do exactly what Stephen Bradley wants of him.
Well, that's it. You have to think when Stephen Bradley signed them in well, it was nearly before the winter when it was announced that he was going to be joining in January. You have to think these are the exact moments Stephen Bradley brought and the Stevens in for. It was for these moments where games are piling up, injuries are coming in the back line, he can slot in and make it look seamless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what he's doing. Look, he has all that experience. He's a wealth of experience
Yeah.
in this game, playing at various levels, playing at the highest levels, playing at even at an international level. And the Stevens has been there and he's done that. So to come in to show the professionalism that he has in his locker, it shouldn't surprise us.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has it all. He has it all there. And yeah, he's a great. These type of signs are really key, particularly as I said when these games start to bundle up, particularly when it'll come into the summer and there's cups and there's European games. He'll matter even more then. But you're showing again, like tonight, you're showing again that he's there and he's ready. He's not. He doesn't come in and looks shaky or looks out of place. Even he's coming in, and he's putting on a full show on the show.
Yeah.
Well, this is exactly what his level, and this is
Yeah.
exactly what he can do.
And he's played at a high level before and has played in the national team and stuff. So we know he's able to compete at a high level, and he's shown it every time he's played so far this season. Like he hasn't frequently played. It's not like he had like a few minutes against Pats earlier in the season. The first proper start was in the away fixture to Waterford, and then he obviously played last week against Derry and now again
And like
this week.
when
But
you think
solid
about it,
across them all.
yeah, and when you think about it, like he's put like this week and the defeat to Derry last week, obviously look wasn't overly positive. I didn't speak too positive of many players last week. He was one of the key or one of the better performers out of the 11 or
Hmm.
however many that took to the
Yeah, we
pitch.
did. We highlighted him and Pico in the last.
Yeah, but like when you think about it as well, these like when he's coming in when he's come in for Rover so far this season, for a game where he started it and played 76 minutes.
Hmm.
I know he's only made three this season,
Yeah,
but like back to back 90 minutes now. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So like it's not
For a player of his age as well.
like he's not coming in to play 5 minutes at the end of a game and
No,
10 minutes. Like he's
he's coming in to play the full 90.
yeah. So like yeah, you can't underestimate the importance of a player like that. And I'm sure Stephen Bradley thinks the exact same because what he'll want when he looks at this squad, whether it's injuries, whether it's rotation, managing a minute, it'll be so crucial for Bradley to look into his dressing room and go, there's someone I can count on, someone that when he puts him in, whenever it is, whether he doesn't play for the next five games or whatever, he knows in 6 games time
Yeah,
he's there and he's ready and he's primed.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, couldn't have said that much better. No, he's just yeah. It showed exactly why today. Why he's at Rovers again. He's not just here to be a name on the squad sheet. Really, he's here to do the minutes when needed, and especially now in the next little while, if Corey is out for a little bit of time, you would expect to see Enda Stevens that little bit more in the team. The reason I think a lot of people might have expected him to be in the squad a little bit more already, but Corey O'Sullivan has been exemplary so far this season. So
Corey Sullivan's putting a few names on the bench, as he tends to do.
yeah, like I highly doubt Enda Stevens is going to start now on Monday after
Yeah,
playing the
no,
full
you
90
have
today.
you've Lee Grace there
Yeah,
that came over.
who was doing very well earlier in the season as well. We had actually highlighted him, and particularly against Drogheda, we had highlighted him coming back from that 0-0, particularly how good he'd been in that period. Uh,
Dan Cleary didn't get any minutes today, so that would suggest he's probably on the way back to
yeah,
getting more. I know he was out until the Derry game last week, but he's someone that probably will be looking to get a lot of minutes on Monday then as
yeah.
well.
Well, like look at Dan last season. He was always in the squad, so you'd be expecting it again. But there's a lot of competition for the back line now at the moment.
Yeah, it's it's the
It's
job
good
of
to have
each.
competition, I suppose.
Yeah, well, this is it. The job of each defender there is to give the manager a headache.
Yeah,
You know, that was what you're always taught as a kid playing football.
yeah,
Was you know because you tended when you were playing football as a kid, you tend to have a lot of players in similar position.
yeah,
So then the manager would always say to us, your job is to give me a headache when it comes to picking the
yeah,
lineup that I have to, I struggle to pick the full 11. And that's, well, look, that goes right across the board and goes to Shamrock Rovers and Stephen Bradley. Another one to probably mention is, look, we sing his praises enough. If it's not Corey O'Sullivan, it's Graham Burke. I know we touched already on there his goal. Um, but look, he's just, what can you say? A Rolls Royce of a striker.
yeah.
Done really well. A lot, even like chances were limited. I know about the shot count and that, but like as we've said here, since the chances that came didn't come in high supply, where they looked overly threatening to Waterford's goal. But if there was any chances being made, it was most likely going to come from Graham Burke.
Yeah,
A couple of chances in the first half that he set up to make the keeper work. Having an attempt on goal, then set up Adam Brennan for a chance he couldn't really get a clear hit at it. And yeah, I suppose it's just, look, you can't underestimate the importance of Graham Burke either. And
definitely not.
he like what played 68 minutes today. Probably didn't play the full 90 because I'm sure Stephen probably has plans to maybe start him again on
Again.
Monday, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, but then on saying that, I suppose he didn't start against Derry last week, so it'll be interesting to see what
Yeah,
way it goes. But yeah, look,
you do
Graham,
feel him missed in the squad when he isn't starting.
yeah, like that was his fifth goal in the league this season.
Yeah,
So he's definitely doing well for himself and showing exactly look the form that Rovers maybe expect of him, but want to see. And when they see it, when you see Graham Burke in fine form, look, you can't argue with it too much.
no, Rovers top goal scorer obviously in the league this season with 5, and only 2 behind the overall league's top goal scorer Ryan Edmondson, who was 7. So nice golden boot. I'm sure he wouldn't say no to that.
Well, as he says that, there's a man in the woods
Yeah,
who might be on the way. We speak about him every week as well, even though he hasn't played a minute this season, but somehow his name creeps up on a weekly basis. Well, not somehow. The man won Rovers the double in November.
yeah.
That is, of course, Rory Gaffney. There was an update on Rory in the Irish Mirror this week, where Stephen Bradley said he's hoping for a quick return for Rory Gaffney after a setback and recovering from his Achilles surgery. He went so he, the article goes on to say that he went under the knife in Sweden during the off season for a cleanup operation on an injury that he previously required an operation on, and then they hope for a return in late April. Wasn't the big. He picked up an infection, and Bradley had said that he was on a heavy course of antibiotics, and had to rest completely. So now it's been delayed the return, but he's hoping that this course of antibiotics is finished and that
He's
Gaffney's back on pitches soon.
that's all we all want. We just want to see Gaffney back.
That's it. Well,
We've missed him.
if there's any younger members of the audience listen to this, and if your tooth happens to fall out, you want to make a wish.
We know exactly.
You know exactly what to do.
Yeah, we know exactly who your wish is going to.
Yeah, exactly. So that might offer something interesting An interesting element to that front too, because the minute you're seeing it's Graham Burke and Michael Noonan predominantly. Now you see it on the team sheet, the two of them are
Yeah,
named as the front two strikers, but Graham Burke tends to just roam.
yeah,
He's
he
given
does.
that. Stephen Bradley tends to give him that free will to kind of. He knows he can be more effective if he's not limited to just staying up front. Graham Burke's not that striker
No,
to
he's
stay
not.
up front.
He's not just a sit in the box, and he's not a fox in the box. Like,
No, exactly that. So that'll offer an interesting element. And then obviously you have Aaron Green and John McGovern who tend to come in for them. Obviously, Aaron Green coming on today. So if you add Rory Gaffney into that mix, how do things tend to pan out? We'll see. But it's interesting. Michael Noonan, another man who's, you know, we touched on previously that he maybe struggled to make as much of an impact as we would have liked.
hmm
Um, he made there was one notable chance from him that I took note of, and that was in the 41st minute.
hmm
He takes the ball out on the right wing, cuts inside and makes a dart run into the box, stays in front of his man so that it's kind of if the defender wants to get through him, it's going to result in a penalty really. Um, so he keeps him away, and then he ends up working the keeper, I think he nearly hits the post.
Yeah,
Obviously to no avail, but good chance from Noonan. Just I think he needs just more of them type of moments, and needs to be helped as well by the teammates, by the squad.
yeah. It's not
In,
all on his shoulders. Like,
yeah,
but
uh,
and then in the second half, there's not a lot to write home about. Uh,
second half kind of just came and went.
yeah, it was a slow second half. Not a lot happened. Like Waterford, as we mentioned, had their more share of the ball in the second half. Well, they had one or two more chances, but none of the chances were overly threatening.
Yeah, and it's one of them that's just they had more possession because they're the team that's trailing and
Yeah,
wanted to
they wanted
try.
to get. They were chasing the goal rather than Rovers chasing it.
Yeah, which I think
It
I
felt like
just
Rovers were happy to just let them.
yeah it got a bit I don't know. As I said, the tensions were rising in the
Yeah.
stadium. I think frustrations were there to see when the game kind of ticked on a bit later because yeah, like that. I think yeah, I don't know. It got Rovers weren't creating enough,
hmm
and as you said, maybe that leans into what you were saying there about maybe Rovers were happy to just kind of see it out.
Yeah.
Again, look, this what way do you look at it? Do you think it's fair enough? They're 1-0 up. Ultimately, that win resulted in them going top of the league.
hmm
Are you more happy with that? Where
Yeah.
what if Rovers went all out to chase a second goal and then it
No,
cut out and
they're
it ends
happy to
one
just
all?
get top of the league and just get the win. As we said, sometimes you have to win even when you don't play at your best. And tonight was exactly one of them nights where you win titles by getting them results, even when you're not at the top of your game. And Rovers done that. I don't think necessarily they looked under threat too much, but they still got the win and the 3 points and went back where they belong.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. Look, some of these games, it's not how you win; it's that you win.
Exactly.
I think I say that all the time.
That's one of your go-to expressions.
Top 10 quotes. um, so yeah, it's one of them nights. You just if it becomes a common theme, that's when I think issues start to. You can't. It won't. It wouldn't last. There wouldn't be no longevity in Rovers turning many performances into them type of
hmm
games. If these were becoming a common theme, you would think
Yeah.
that's when the issues are going to start arising, and
Yeah.
Rovers won't get away with it for too long.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, I think at the moment, is it early doors in the season, Adam?
No, it's not early doors. It's not. We're no longer saying it's early doors in the season. We're four. We're 4 games off being halfway through the season. It's not early days.
Yeah, but I just can't look at 14 games and think it's not early doors.
Yeah, it's not early doors at all.
Or sorry, that it's
No,
not early doors.
it's no, don't even.
Um,
From in like what 3 weeks? So the 22nd of May, they'll be halfway through the season.
That's a bit mad to think, isn't it? Already.
So none of this early days nonsense. And obviously it does go quicker this time of year. This half of the season goes a lot quicker than the second half. You've got breaks and stuff, and there's the occasional week off here, the occasional like there's the 2 weeks in June, there's the 2 weeks in August,
Yeah.
there's the kind of 2 weeks at the end of September for that international break.
Yeah, yeah. And well, there's an upcoming international break that
Rovers
Stephen,
don't have off.
yeah, and Stephen Bradley advocated for Victor to be
Yeah.
in that squad for at least what Rovers have, or sorry, Ireland have what Qatar,
Qatar at home on the 28th of May,
and
and then
uh,
Canada on the
and they play
6th.
Granada as well, don't they?
That's next week or the 13th, the week after. That's meant to be hot water, not hot
Hot
water.
water.
That's us.
You're
We're in
in.
hot
You were in
water.
hot water.
That was meant to be hot weather training for the World Cup, obviously with some of the games taking place in Mexico, but
Sure.
that's not really needed, is it?
So now why are they doing it now then?
I don't know, you can still
To
buy
get a
tickets.
tan.
Did you see the FAI selling tickets and stuff?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, yeah. I'm not getting into the international football
No.
front. But I suppose we'll move it on to the upcoming fixture.
Yeah, the next game.
Yeah, Monday evening sees Rovers in action again. They host Drogheda United in Tallaght Stadium, 5 o'clock kickoff. Yeah, Monday May Bank holiday.
Hmm.
So it's a double game week. We said before we don't mind when these double game weeks come at
Yeah, it's all
festive
right. Yeah,
periods.
festive, very festive time of year. The May Bank holiday. It's what we all look forward to. But yeah, no, Drogheda coming off 1-0 win this evening. Obviously, when you're listening, it'll be last night, but 1-0 win over Sligo today. So
They're like I obviously we were at Rovers ourselves, but
mhm.
they're on back-to-back wins, and
Yeah,
you know, it took a bit of a turn of form maybe.
yeah. They started the season with back-to-back wins, and then they were off the cusp basically until this most recent win. Well, this kind of stretch of the 2 wins in a row. Like they went about nine. I think it's 9 games, if I'm correct, without a win.
Oh,
But so they look. They've won their last two. There's only so much you can say. That's taking them off the relegation playoff ahead of Sligo Rovers.
yeah, big win, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, like to
Win
take them
for
out.
them, yeah. It's a big win when you're down there to be getting them points. It's still, well, it's not early days, so ooh, it nearly
Oh,
slipped up. But no, obviously Rovers played Drogheda already earlier in the season in a eventful 0-0 draw.
and that was the day before Paddy's Day. That was a double game week on a Monday as well.
That was a Monday as well.
Yeah,
Uh, they won't be playing them then again till the end of July, but 0-0 last time out in a very quite uneventful and quite boring game.
yeah.
Just before Paddy's Day in the Sullivan and Lamb Park.
That wasn't to get out of the shepherd's pike at all.
And then, yeah, we know obviously last time Drogheda came to Tallaght was actually, this seems like ages ago, was August 31st.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, just with the way the fixtures would have worked out. So 2-1 win then. I was on international duty. Uh, and yeah, what do you reckon for Monday? What you feeling?
Um, Let me put my psychic powers to
Yeah,
the fore here.
you're going over 7.5 quarters. You do.
I'm putting on an Aka,
Yeah,
or a bet builder. Uh, yeah, look, Robert shouldn't look at it. Robert shouldn't look at this in any other way than think this should be 6 points out of the two
hmm,
games over the break or over the bank holiday weekend.
yeah,
Um, as I said, I think Drogheda will offer a similar performance to Waterford. They're near enough each other position wise, and anyways,
yeah,
8th and 10th. So, uh, yeah, I think they'll offer a similar test as well. Backs to the wall, try grab a draw, take a win if it's going.
yeah.
But
Well, obviously, I feel like what Rovers will expect to win, and it's not going to be easy. You're not going to be able to just go out there and do anything, but you'd be expecting a win at least. But though, if they play like tonight, are they guaranteed a win?
no,
Exactly.
I don't. No, they're not because performances like this go anyway. I think on another night you could draw, and another night you could lose. Then Um,
Great insight there.
I feel like Michael Owen now. Cheers. That's the
Some
end.
games you win, some games you draw, some games you
I'm
lose.
like Liam Senior here, man age. um, but no, like I
No,
just
I do know what you mean.
games like that go anyway. Is where I'm going with
Yeah,
that. It's yeah, like a performance like that is not guaranteed 3 points. It's
yeah.
far
You know,
from
if
it.
Rovers show up and play their best, they're not going to lose.
No, it should be 3 points, and
Yeah,
it could be 3 goals with it.
yeah.
Um,
But if they do play like they could tonight, anything can really happen. Especially if Drogheda are up for it after winning 2 games in a row,
and particularly like
and with a chance to, in theory, if they win and results went their way, to move into fifth.
yeah, but I suppose on that Drogheda front, it's more like how they got that win at Talca Park last Friday. It
Yeah, it wasn't just a win; it was
was dramatic
the
fashion.
win.
Yeah, 4-3. Like it's that's one to get the confidence up. And one that can kind of wins like that can put teams can kind of give them that kick.
Yeah,
And it might have done it now. I said they beat Sligo tonight.
yeah,
So it might be one of them that now they're going to kick into gear a bit. Because look, everyone knows what this Drogheda team can be capable of.
yeah. That's true.
Got into a European place. They never played a European game, but they got in there.
No, they did.
So like they're capable of that. It's just about, as I said, clicking into gear and finding their form. And this might be the time. Hopefully, it isn't.
Hopefully not. Just delay it a week and then.
Then we don't care what you do. But yeah, now Monday I see being a tough staring test. I don't think it's gonna go all Rovers' way. Hopefully the 3 points do.
Yeah,
That's the main thing. But overall, I
it's no
think
walk in the park. Like.
no. And yeah, Drogheda are a good side. Plenty of good players in there. And I'm sure Stephen Bradley as well. Well, he is well versed in facing Drogheda, of course. But he's well aware. I'd imagine that Monday is going to be could be a similar showing to tonight, because when you think about Rovers are probably going to be forced into a couple of changes maybe going
Yeah,
into Monday as well, because as I said, managing minutes, to play 108 minutes within the space of a few days, not easy for
it's
any player in
demanding
their
on the body.
minds. Yeah, and then you think of it because I think I probably mentioned this nearly every time there's a double game week. You forget that if you just look at extend that week, it's 3 games in the
Yeah, it's
week.
3 games in a week. Like,
It's not easy going.
no, it's 3 games in 7 days. Really, like,
Yeah, so I
which
know
is
there's clubs in England crying about playing 3 games in a week.
here we go.
But anyways, but there's Rovers doing it, and every team in Ireland doing it. But look, it's gonna be yeah. Look, no, as we said, no walk in the park. My expert analysis is Rovers could win, lose, or draw this game. But yeah, no, look, changes will be made, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Rovers line out as well.
Yeah. One thing I'll just say before I even talk about the game, it's nice little 5 o'clock game. I
Yes,
like
yes,
a nice early kick off on a bank holiday is nice.
yeah. That's true. Yeah, didn't even think of that
The sun will be shining, hopefully.
for the whole game.
Yeah.
Not the game starting off in the sun and finishing in the dark.
Yeah, I don't like that.
That's better than the starting in the dark and finishing in the dark, though,
That's
isn't
very
it?
true.
Do you know what I mean? Uh,
More great insight there.
what is this turning into? Met Aaron here.
Yeah. But no, I definitely think Rovers, if they show up and play like they have been able to this year in certain games, and like, for example, the 3-2 win over Shells or the 2-1 win over Bows at home, when they showed up and showed out, if you might say,
Ooh.
I if they do that again on Monday, then I can't see them not walking away with all 3 points. But again, if they play like they did today and Drogheda are up for it, you could see Drogheda getting the points and just, or at least even disrupting Rovers a little bit by holding them to a stalemate. And that's the last thing Rovers will want, with Pats going to kind of what you would look at for them as a favourable fixture against Sligo. Last thing you want is this top of the like table kind of moment to only be a brief moment and last for one game.
Yeah, like it's chopping and changing.
Hmm.
So it's fluctuating here. It's like a stock market.
Like it's tight, but you still want to stay where you are. You want to stay at the top.
Yeah, because I thought this when Rovers went top after was it after the 2-1 win over Bows to go top, or it was the 1-0 win over Pats.
Yeah,
Rovers went top, and I thought this could be the start of do Rovers just stay top now.
yeah,
Didn't happen. Now
no,
Rovers are back top of the table. It might be this might be one of them stories where you look at it and think how it might get to the end, the latter stage of the season. You think when was Rovers last knocked off the top?
yeah,
Um, Look, it's not. I know for a fact it's not something Stephen Bradley gets bogged down on
yeah,
because generally Stephen Bradley, no matter where Rovers are in the table, whether it's when they start the season a bit slower and might be like say fifth or so
yeah,
after a few games, or whether they might fall to maybe third at the midway point, whatever it is. If you ask Stephen Bradley the question about the standings, his one answer
he'll
will
probably say
be
it's early days.
his one answer is see where it is in now November.
Yeah, well, that's all that matters is where you are at come November, isn't it?
Yeah. Another positive note to take into Monday's fixture withdrawal at it as well.
Well, it's still October, technically.
Yeah, this year it is.
30th of
Last year
October,
it
yeah.
wasn't.
Last
Finished
year
on
was
the
November.
1st of November.
It all depends on it's the Friday of the Friday after the bank holiday.
Yeah.
Was it
Um.
Halloween last year? So was it spooky?
It was spooky season. It was the day after Halloween.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah. It was the Saturday.
yeah, yeah,
4:30
yeah, yeah.
kickoff. Yeah.
It's not scheduled in for that this year, but they might change. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know because when they announced the fixtures last year, it was penned for
It's
a
been
Saturday.
penned this that
They
the
just
whole time.
changed the time, but now
Yeah,
they're all penned for the Friday. So apparently, he thinks that will stay there. I don't know. I'd like to see that probably on a Saturday again this year.
yeah, yeah. So would I.
Yeah.
I
Um.
enjoyed it being on the Saturday.
Yeah. It offers a different perspective, and especially if it's final day of the season. So
Yeah, I don't know. It just made it a little bit better.
Rovers. Speaking of finishing seasons and when it ends, the first point I want to make on this of where I'm about to go here is Rovers at home this season, 19 points from a possible 21,
Yeah,
6 wins and a draw, unbeaten at home so far this year.
that's quite
Last
good.
the last defeat at home was Sligo Rovers on the last day of last season, but
Yeah,
Rovers
which
had the League One
yeah,
going into that, so it wasn't really. And then of course they had a cup final on the horizon, so I don't think
yeah.
anyone was too bogged down on handing Sligo Rovers 3 points on that day.
That stands to Tallaght as well, and just how formidable it is.
The Fortress. But that's it. So like um it's one that Rovers do tend to always have a strong
Yeah,
a strong home form come the end of the season, and we're still seeing it now.
yeah,
Uh, I think like look, should be expecting that unbeaten run to continue.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
You're hoping so.
now the only thing I'm thinking is, are we jinxing it? Because
Ooh,
the episode before Derry, you said in the final note of the podcast of the episode before Derry, the Derry game was, you said Rovers haven't lost since, and then you said keep that in your.
touch wood.
um, but yeah, it's gonna be a tough challenge. I suppose one player who might get more minutes, who's we're seeing him get slightly more minutes now. Saw it against Derry. Saw it tonight is Melissa Asamoah.
Yeah,
Still looks like he's like as you'd expect, and it's
getting
harder
used to it
to get the get the grips with a new team and a new league. But it does look like he's struggling to get the grips a little
a
bit. But
little bit, but top of all, I did see him a little bit at first, and look at
looking,
him now.
yeah, Shamrock Rovers won the double, and he hates the Bows
Exactly. You can't say the rest of it
on this
on the,
podcast.
on air.
um, yeah, but he's another name. I think Asamoah, you might see him on the in the starting lineup, mate, potentially.
Yeah,
Um, it might be good to see it. Also, but then you have that argument of, do you maybe continue giving Jake Mulroney more minutes to try get that
yeah,
good form out, because it's like every time I see him on the pitch, you're looking at him saying you want him to do well, and then I'd say he definitely. There's no way saying he doesn't, but it's just maybe you want to see, maybe it's a goal or something you
You
want to
just
see or an
want to, you want
assist.
something on the
Yeah,
stat sheet to something that gives a proper like confidence boost.
that's right. It just gives him, yeah, it gives him a confidence boost. I think brings it into his next game.
Yeah, and
Uh,
just be nice to see it as well.
yeah. But it's double. As I said, when the games are doubling up like this is even more opportunity for players to get in on the action. First of all, to get to get involved and get minutes. And yeah, because I wouldn't expect Adam Brennan to start on Monday.
Hmm.
Particularly, he was obviously coming back from injury until recently.
Yeah,
So to see him obviously start tonight, um, I don't know. I don't expect it, but it's one to watch. And I think the lineup will be interesting as well. When particularly is I think when Rovers, as I said, when these games double up like this, um, that yeah, it's can offer a bit more insight into where Stephen Bradley thinks of what he thinks of these players and where he thinks they're at.
hmm,
What they're capable of doing and yeah, obviously delivering on these big stages.
yeah, exactly. You can't ask for much more. But yeah, just in terms of the game, really, as we mentioned earlier about the team and the rotation of everything, you do expect a heavily rotated squad. I'm trying to think about up top. Who do you reckon will start up top? Do you think John McGovern might be back in the starting lineup, perhaps? Or
Yeah, I don't think he changed both of them, so I don't think
no,
he takes out Burke and Noonan.
no, I think the fact Noonan played all 90, I don't think
Don't
that.
think he'll start.
No,
Burke and McGovern,
yeah, I'm
Burke
thinking
and
Burke and
Green.
McGovern. Yeah, I don't think he'll start Green. I'm thinking McGovern.
Um, I think he could start Green. He went through a bit of a patch.
He
Bradley did
did.
of starting Green and
I just
giving
don't.
him.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't see it for some reason this Monday.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But yeah, I suppose we'll leave it there for the draw to talk.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's getting even later here
yeah,
on a Friday night. I was going to say Friday evenings. We're past Friday evenings.
yeah.
It's Friday night, but no, look,
It's nearly Saturday morning.
you're recording into
Crazy
the
last
AM.
Sunday morning.
Um, no, exactly. Yeah, look, that's it from us. Double game week. Look, we love them. This is what it causes is us to record on a Friday night, and
Yeah,
we'll record on Monday as well. But might be a bit of an earlier one potentially,
yeah.
or maybe not. We'll see. Um, but yeah, look, thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with the Milltown way. As I said, the video that went out earlier and got a lot of attention. We got a lot of feedback from supporters and a lot of insight as well. Look, that video was a. I think there was probably a misunderstanding with the video. Essentially, I think it was intended. Look, it's 50 seconds long. It was just to be a quick,
Yeah,
slight synopsis. I know the big thing was that I did probably say the case was dropped. Look, wrong wording, really more so than anything. Um, but yeah, look, that's it from us for this week.
yeah.
Thanks for listening. As I said, obviously we're going through the Thomas Davis, and as I said, we do have an interview coming up on Tuesday, so hopefully that'll go out on Tuesday evening as well. Do keep an eye on our social channels for that. Make sure you do watch it when it does come out. But yeah, that's it from this episode, and yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll chat to you after our draw.
Thank you.